the executive and the judiciary. Right now, we have the social media effect, we have the NGO community, and many other emerging arms of government. What I really don't understand is not understanding the definitional issue. In my mind, as a leader who has been around, I don't know whether I have your attention, sorry. In my mind, as a leader who has been around, who's familiar with the modus operandi, even modus vivendi of our security agencies, which you have. You are the civilian face of the Homeland Security. When such a high profile, me I'm persuaded is abduction, and it can have two faces. When we have put all these efforts to project Kenya, to promote Kenya, locally, regionally, internationally, and even our forces are there in Haiti. Why is Haiti there in that state? Because of the effects of goonism and gangsters and everything else that the administration then failed to act on. Is it what is happening in Kenya right now? A step towards that direction. Because a leader has been abducted, a leader is missing, to use the police word. A leader cannot be accounted for, yet to date, other than the mere OP acknowledgement in Makadara police station, we are yet to see a high-level response from the security agencies. That compounds the challenge in this era, Waziri, of constitutional accountability, adherence to the rule of law, and accountability. You have used the word constitutional accountability. By now, we expected that every day we'll be getting progress report. I do not want to downplay the comment that you have made, that you're making some progress and therefore you'll issue a comprehensive test, because we also understand that sometimes some of these things require a lot of delicate handling. But what compounds, Waziri, put yourself in the shoes of the voters of that elected representative, the family, the relatives, his representative who is talking to you. No statement, nothing, business as usual, nothing is happening. So Waziri, I want to give you lead questions, which you also understand. On 6 August, this particular state officer, leader, was summoned by the County Security Committee Wajir. For whatever reason, I learned this recently. And they have every right to interact with everybody. The same person, on 10th September, the entire Homeland Security heads were also in Wajir. On 11th September, the gentleman traveled to Nairobi. On 13th, he went missing. He was abducted. The venue, the location, it's as a result of our collective efforts that we have CCTVs everywhere. This honorable member called for the service of an Uber driver. He has made a statement, he has made an affirmation on, under, off, which I also tabled through the chairman before the House. So Waziri, and I know you are a lawyer, an astute lawyer, criminal responsibility is individual. I do not want to delve into that. But equally, we must also be accountable to the due process of law. That due process of law is what we are questioning. I want to plead with you. And I will say this without fear, without favor, without any contradiction, without an iota of doubt. And you know I'm an old, seasoned, experienced legislator and I've been around. If this particular leader has committed any crime, he's supposed to be before a court of law. not in detention, not in the name of abduction. What you have done, the achievements that you have made over the last 2 years as the substantive CS internal security, for those of us who have been around, is commendable. But some of these silly actions, you can call them rowdy officers, overzealous officers, you can call them of lack of accountability, whatever name that you call them, completely destroys that big image that you have been trying to build. And I am also alive to the sensitivity and the challenge that sometimes you go through. So I want to plead with you as we wait for that comprehensive response. If it was in other jurisdictions, you know it. By now, an elected missing, some people will have taken responsibility, personal responsibility. It has two aspects. Assume even in the worst case scenario, which is not in this case, that he has been abducted by criminal elements. Do you want to say that Kenya is a banana republic? Why are these criminal elements who have been abducting people, and so many people have been released, why are they not being taken into court? Waziri, you understand this. Me and you have gone to the same university. You understand this. That is not one of the tenets that we have been taught. It is not. It's completely outside that. Can this, you know, by now I think you are familiar with our culture. I have the entire community in Nairobi. So you can also imagine the burden, the entire community, because their leader is missing. I have to recharge my telephones every second, every minute, because of the calls. I have nothing to say. In fact, the assumption is, because I'm an experienced legislator and I've been around, I can talk to all of you and say, yes, I've talked to all of you. Everybody's in denial. What message will I say? So I want to plead with you. Whoever is holding this guy, and they know where they are, and please, wherever you are, you know yourselves. Release this MCL.
That's okay. We should work it
Yeah, but release this MCL. If you have evidence enough that can warrant him, just like we have alluded, because all of us are accountable to the rule of law. That's what separates us. Take him to court. Thank you, Wazir.
Okay, kindly members, I want to guide us this. I think the CS had actually asked that we give time to give more updated and comprehensive response, latest. I appreciate the reasons and the ground why, of course, you need to say something, but maybe just to reinforce or the plea and what the Mheshimiwa Kenani is saying, I will give the two members briefly just to say something to the CS.
Thank you,
I
Chair.
understand.
Yes, and it's only fair that you give us a few minutes, Chair, and I appreciate that. Waziri, today, honestly, I'm not in the mood. Not just because I want it, because an MCA, an elected leader from my county, has been missing for the past 15 days. Today being 16th day. You mentioned you are not aware of the case. There is a communication from your office that we got through the chair on 24th that indeed the matter is under investigation. It's now 2 days since we got that investigation. And as a professor of law, the whole time you've been educating us on law, on how to safeguard the Constitution. From where I sit, I feel like we are applying the law, or we are implementing the Constitution selectively. When an elected leader is missing for the 16th day, don't you think he has all the rights to live? Don't you think as an elected member of parliament, he needs to be, he needs to be implementing and, doing the work he was elected for? That is something as a lawyer I want to understand. Two, Bwana Waziri, you said you don't want us to do abductions. Without an iota of doubt, I want to categorically say the government of Kenya is abducting the citizens of this country. Why I say that?
Mheshimiwa, kindly, you can only say that if you can substitute that.
I'm going there, Chair.
Kindly, you know the procedures.
Okay.
So withdraw that one, and you're a very smart legislator.
As I withdraw, Chair, let me just finish the statement. I say that because this honorable member, Mr. Waziri, got a summon from the security agencies. 2 days later, he's abducted. Any person who thinks will add, the tabulations that indeed it's the security agencies. If indeed it's not the security agencies, Mr. Waziri, how hard is it for the security agencies to come and say we don't have this gentleman, Mr. Waziri? My other question is, if an elected member of parliament can be abducted, how safe are we as the citizens? Personally, because of the things I've been doing and going through the meetings in search of the honorable member, I feel threatened, to be honest. I don't know whether I'm safe as an elected member of parliament because of the things and the meetings we go. Honorable Kenan mentioned how my community works. The entire county is in Nairobi. It's expensive for us to maintain them. We don't sleep in our houses, Mr. Waziri. We are running from one place to another. At one point, if I take you to my house, more than 50 people are in the house because of the elected member. Mr. Waziri, I feel very, miserable that the people who elected me right now, who feel I can bring the elected MCA by just advocating and talking in parliament, that nothing can be heard, nothing can be done. Mr. Waziri, to be honest, I feel like we are in a failed state. When you take an elected member, he's a human being, he can do anything. Why do we have the courts? Why do we have the constitution? You are a professor of law, Mr. Waziri. We are not happy from where we sit, even as a country, from Ojia, Mr. Waziri. Waziri, lastly, you said you initially started by condoling the extrajudicial killing and abductions. We want, when you say something, we mean it as a country. At the end of the day, the people we elected us are the people we work for. We will not support if they have done something wrong, Waziri. The entire Wajir country, from all the 6 constituencies today, are all out in demonstrating in the streets of Wajir, besides the government refusing to give them permit. We will not allow, Mr. Waziri. We will not allow our elected members to be disappearing. Then there's no need of us being elected in the first place. We rather stay home. We rather have a lawless country, Mr. Waziri. Okay. You are the Waziri I respect. I have a lot of regards for you. We want our honorable member back. We want our son back. We are not asking for much. He is in the hands of the security agencies. I don't know how to put more than that.
Thank you, Honorable Fatuma. I think you've been heard very well and clear. Vice Chair, Defense.
Thank you.
Henry, maybe try
Chairman,
to...
I left a meeting of Defense and we adjourned that meeting, so Waziri will not be meeting us. We are adjourned for another day. Waziri, I want to echo my colleagues, Honorable Kenan and Honorable Fatuma, on this matter. Really, it's a painful situation as it is. When we talk about the police, where say we are not aware of this MCA, then it comes to our mind, do we have a gang that can really abduct an elected leader for 16 days and the police are not really aware? And Honorable Kenan actually mentioned that, look, we are supporting Haiti on matters of dealing with gangs, and yet here we have a leader that is being abducted and we don't know where it is. And from where I sit, I know what is happening is that he is under the security agencies. The only thing is that because you are a professor of law and 24 hours has passed, now the issue of saying how do we hold him for this number of days is also coming up. In my place, in my council quarters, Ramo, there was a demonstration because his siblings and his parents come from my place, even though they represent somewhere in Wajir. We are ready to forgive the security agencies for holding him for all this number of days. Please let him be released. It's unfortunate. When I looked at the statement yesterday, and I contributed in the House, and I said, this is a shallow statement, just because you are not aware of the statement yourself. It didn't come through you. I look at the statements of the other responses. It's signed by Professor Kindiki. The other one, the one for the MCA Della, is not signed by Professor Kindiki, and it's true, you are not aware. That shows that we are not putting efforts about this MCA. Here we are talking about insecurity, cattle rustling, ABCD. We have a leader who is missing for 16 days. My plea is that let us release this MCA. Whether abducted by whoever, it doesn't matter. The Kenyan security agencies have capacity to find out where he is, whether by themselves or by other gangs. So my plea, I repeat, is that let us find where the MCA is. I know there's an issue of 24 hours has lapsed. We have held him for all this number of days. There's issue of all these things are coming up. I know, but what I'm trying to tell you is that he has been held. I've been in the security industry myself. I worked with Camarasa, and we have we have done some operations even before. We know. Let them release this MCA. Later, they can decide to take him to court or so. It doesn't matter. But the family is at pains. So mine is just to input that comment, and please take it serious. Even as you say that you want to do a statement later, let the statement come later, release him. You know where he is. You can
Thank
confirm.
you. That is okay, Bashir. Lastly,
thank you, Chairman. I just want to be very brief, Waziri. In the last administration, two of my constituents are still missing. They were elders from Boran and Gabra communities. And their families are going through very painful experience. Coming from a security background, I personally feel the issues of abduction to enforce the law or extrajudicial killing will not help Kenya to maintain peace and harmony. It is a very weak system because it undermines intelligence, it undermines information. There are so many things it undermines. And I think the best thing to happen, if anybody is seen to be breaking the law, they must have their day in court. The intelligence system, investigative agencies must cobble together as much information as possible so that people like leaders, let them be arrested in a decent manner. But I think what is slowly happening, if in case this particular individual is being held by the security agencies, it's a very weak form of enforcing the law. And I think we, as administration under President Ruto, many of us who are in that administration and supporting it, I think we would not wish to go that route. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Chair.
akiamua ni hapa, hata kama ikuta anapitia hapa.
And those who took advantage of that expression of democratic opinion to commit crime also and intended to access State House and take it over unconstitutionally. So that is the context in which I respond to this statement, Mr. Chair. In the process of those unprecedented demonstrations, acts of violence and extensive destruction of public property and private property, I have been asked to say how many people were arrested during that period. 1,208. Number two, I've been asked to state during those June, July riots, how many people lost their lives? 42. Thirdly, I have been asked to give an account of any unaccounted or unidentified bodies which could be in public mortuaries arising out of those unprecedented events of June and July 2024. 2. The number is 2. And finally, I have been asked to inform this committee, and by extension Parliament, how many people were reported missing during the June, July violent riots across the country. 132. And therefore, other than those statistics, the second part of that request for statement by the member for Ugenya was to, I think more or less I've answered everything, but I think there is one part there which says, actually I've answered everything. Part 1 to 4, I submit.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, Chair. Obviously, the statements is extremely underwhelming. Does not even attempt to answer all the questions asked. Honorable Chair, if you look at number 2 of the statement, first of all, in fact, it was a list of the names of those who lost their lives during the demonstrations across the country. The good Chair, good Waziri, has simply given us statistics. These statistics is not stones, they are human beings. If you know the number, ought surely to know the names of these people who lost their lives. Number 2, Honorable Speaker, it is again unfair for the minister to indicate the government has got no policy of abduction and false disappearances. It has been common knowledge because these 132 members who are missing, where are they? They can't just miss out, cannot just disappear in thin air, and yet this is a country of Kenya. We have extensive security network in this country. Where are these people and who are they? They must have been reported. Whoever reported must have indicated who their names are, their ID numbers, and any form of identification. It will do good for this country, Honorable Speaker, Chair, if the Cabinet Secretary could be forthright and give us information. Because I'm sure this is not classified information. Those who have died have been buried. Those who are missing have been reported and they are in the OB. It's not, it's not state secret. Probably if he answers that, you'll allow me to answer to request further questions, Chair.
Anybody with a follow-up question to regarding the same? If none, we'll let the minister.
Honorable Chair, I, to some extent, agree with the member on the adequacy of that response. And you will notice, Honorable Chair, that yesterday I had, my office had forwarded a statement which we asked to amend by the current statement that we submitted this morning. And the reason for that adjustment is as follows, that as I have said, the number of those who died is 42. But that statement had identified up to 30 of the deceased. So what I asked the police to do, I think it was just like, because the information is there, it has always been there. These numbers and who died where, in what circumstances, the context in which they died, some by bullet, others by mob, etc. That information is there. So I discovered that the information given was up to case number 30. So I asked them to update the other 12, because death is a legal consequence. And therefore, what I will be pleading with this committee is to be given 24 hours. You already have the statement that has up to 30 of the deceased. The other 12 could be provided as supplementary information in 24 hours. As I have said many times, the government of Kenya has nothing to hide. If a Kenyan died, we cannot hide the fact that a Kenyan has died. What we need to do is to find out the circumstances under which the Kenyan died and ensure that if there is culpability or culpability by any person, including a security official or a law enforcement agency, justice is served, because the law does not allow death outside what is permitted in law. To that extent, I agree the incompleteness of that response, and I beg for 24 hours to again supplement with a more detailed information that includes the last 12 of the cases that were not included in the list which I had forwarded already to the committee yesterday. Secondly, the member has talked about the policy. He believes that government has a policy on abductions, and I disagree with the member with a lot of respect. It is not true, because policy has to be stated, it has to be articulated. Policy cannot be, it's not nebulous, it's not abstract. I, as the minister who is responsible, and including the president himself, have made it clear in public, in private, in all forums, that this administration does not condone abductions or extrajudicial killings or enforced disappearances. So it is unfair to visit a policy of extrajudicial killings on government unless we are provided with the evidence of policy pronouncement, policy articulation that supports this kind of unlawful behavior. And going forward, I think the challenge we have, Chair, as a country, is just to make sure that anybody who breaks the law, even if they are law enforcement people, they are brought to account. And I think in the spirit of the national, the police and other security sector reforms which we have initiated, I want to promise Kenya that we will rein in on any excesses by law enforcement officials to use weapons that are bought with the taxes of the people of Kenya outside the law, to harm the people of Kenya, to kill the people of Kenya, or even to arrest them in a manner that is inconsistent with the Constitution. In a nutshell, this government, and I say without fear of contradiction, does not condone extrajudicial killings, does not condone abductions by any person, whether a criminal or a law enforcement agency. Lastly, the member has asked about the missing persons. Again, the supplementary list will contain the OB number and the people who are reported missing per county. I think Nairobi has the highest. Nyandarua, I think, was the highest. Nyandarua had 13 cases reported. But what I want to inform the committee chair through you is that it is not scientifically correct to say that when someone is reported missing, they have been abducted. It is also not scientific to say that if a missing person report has been made, that that person has been abducted because they were participating in a demonstration. We have had a problem in this country for the last so many years of persons who are reported missing. Some of them have been traced eventually after months, others after weeks, others after years, others have never been found. And therefore, while we got some missing person reports from actually across the country, incidentally including some of the parts of the country where the demonstrations were not violent or were not even present, and that breakdown per county is provided. And therefore, with the great respect to the committee, I want to submit, Chair, that again, just like the cases of the deceased people, those who died, though those who are reported missing, we continually to look for them, to trace them, and we are appealing for information that can help us trace them. And it is the business of the police to make sure that the country is safe and people are protected from criminals, and it cannot be the policy of this government to support any harm on any Kenyan for politics or for whatever reason, because that would violate our constitution. I submit.
Finally, Chair, just on the same issue, Waziri, a number of these people who were killed, the 42 according to your record, even though normal media and through ISK and other LSK and other organizations say the number is much, much higher. Actually, yesterday in the news, they talked about 61 cases, and several numbers are still missing up to now. You have admitted quite a number of these so-called people who were killed by bullets. And obviously, those are police bullets. And obviously, you must have a traceability mechanism to know who was assigned what gun, what kind of ammunition was assigned. Is it possible to trace and follow up and know exactly which police officer shot any particular member of these 42 who have died? And that being the case, having been killed, as we have clearly said, weapons bought by the people of Kenya, what measures have you put in place to ensure the bereaved families, the families who lost loved ones, their breadwinners, their hopes in life? What measures has the government put in place to compensate, even assuage or relieve their pain? What measures has the government put in place? Thank you, Chair.
Chair, I would like to respond to the further intervention by the honorable member as follows. That I have not admitted that any Kenyan was killed by the police. What I said is that some died because of bullet wounds. The process of proving the owner of the gun that discharged a killer bullet is a forensic process. And I am not ruling out the possibility that a police officer may have used their firearms outside the law. But just 2 comments there, Chair, which I honestly believe are in the best interest of the country for me to say at a time like this one, when we are grappling with serious balances. On one hand, we have a country to keep safe from crime, and on the other hand, we have also a country that has a constitution that gives wide-ranging liberties, including civil liberties. I want to say these 2 things. that firstly, Chair, police are allowed to use lethal force. Let's start from there. Police are allowed to use lethal force to kill, depending on the circumstances. There are parameters. Those firearms are supposed to neutralize dangerous criminals who pose danger either to the life of a police officer themselves or to the lives of the people. And I think that's a general principle. I am not trying to say that any of these cases fitted there. I'm just saying that the law allows the police to use lethal force. The question that the pursuit of justice must help us to answer is whether, if there is any police officer who used their weapon, whether that use was within the parameters permitted under the law. If they were not within the parameters, then that police officer must be held accountable. And I know I have been briefed, IPOA is already at an advanced stage of doing that investigations. It requires forensic. You can trace the bullet to a gun and the license, who owns that gun. The second point, and while I'm at that on the police use of force, I would like to, if you look at, for example, what happened in America on January 6, 2020, which, well, remotely could be similar to what we had, maybe not exactly, because those characters who came to Parliament were not coming for fun. Many of you members were there. They were not coming for fun. They were coming to burn down Parliament and kill people, basically. They were not coming to demonstrate and ask for the finance bill not to be passed. They were coming to cause grave harm. In fact, 2 days after that event, after we frustrated the effort to burn down Parliament and kill members, we arrested a suspect at 4 a.m. outside Parliament carrying fuel, intending to go and raise down the premises of Parliament. So, the action we took on that day, therefore, and I'm not preempting the investigations, some lives were lost in the process. But I wanted, again, to be fair to our democracy, to compare that with what happened in the US on January 6, 2020, the attack on Capitol Hill, which was actually an attack on American democracy, force the Senate of the US to make certain decisions and use violence, including harming people, to make a political statement. Lives were lost in that country, but they have never discussed that matter. No media, no person has discussed the lives that were lost on Capitol Hill to protect the American democracy. So that contextualization is extremely important. And Chair, I will not pretend, as the country's security minister, I hold the very strong view that for this country to remain sustainable and for our democracy to function, we must, within the Constitution, make sure that the institutions established under our Constitution are protected, because if we overthrow constitutional institutions like Parliament, judiciary, the executive, we have no country. The things we are discussing here, we will not have even this discussion where a parliamentary committee is grilling the security minister, because the country will not be there in the first place. So that is the first contextual matter I wanted to bring. And it is not true to argue or to submit that the police officer cannot use force. If we never applied force on that fateful day in Parliament, we would be talking about a different Kenya, a different scenario. The second and last issue, Honorable Chair, through you, is on the fact that somebody has been shot is not conclusive evidence that they have been shot by a police officer. It's not conclusive. Maybe there's a presumption that that bullet is the bullet of a police officer, but as a person who has practiced law for a quarter of a century, I can say this without fear of contradiction. The fact that somebody has died through a bullet where police officers were trying to control a crowd is not conclusive proof that that person has been killed by a police officer. And that's why the justice systems must help us establish the truth without shielding anybody. If a police officer went outside the law, they must be held accountable. To demonstrate my point, Rongai. In Rongai, we lost, to my mind, I think 2 people. And others were injured. What happened is that criminals invaded somebody's supermarket and started hurting people, and some were stabbed, workers, shoppers, etc. 2 police officers were guarding Equity Bank next to the supermarket. And they were armed. And the law allows a police officer to enforce the law, not necessarily where you are on duty that day, but if you realize there is breakdown of law and order, it is the duty of the police to protect the public. So these 2 officers had tried to contain that invasion of that supermarket and the injury that was being visited on shoppers and so forth. They were only 2, but the crowd was massive. What happened is the criminals actually overpowered them. They took the gun, and one of them, they took the 2 guns, and one of the person who overpowered them actually started shooting at the crowd. So in the process, I would assume, of an investigation, it is possible that perhaps these officers, as they try to contain this situation, could have shot somebody. That is one hypothesis. But the other hypothesis is that the criminal who overpowered these officers actually and removed their uniform and started shooting at the crowd could have used a police gun, but is a criminal to kill someone. And of course, these are things that require scientific proof. So the presumption could be it is the police officer, but it could be rebuttable by evidence. And that's why we need to be careful not condemn law enforcement officers wholesale, but we must condemn individual law enforcement officers who use weapons outside the law, and the only sure way of ascertaining that is through the processes of justice, which are slow and painful, but eventually they lead us to the truth.
You're done, Waziri?
Yes, Chair, I submit.
Yeah.
And in some of the riots, there were private people with firearms. In some cases where we had huge crowds, there were people with firearms inside crowds. So I'm not just defending my officers. I'm also saying they need to be given the benefit of doubt, and otherwise we will lose the morale of our security agencies. And next time there's an attack, they'll say, okay, there's an attack, Parliament, sort out yourselves. God forbid. I submit.
Members were aware that, of course, we have got quite a number of the rest of the 6 of the question. I think we can leave at that, and I think the minister has taken undertaking to furnish this committee with the total number of Kenyans who are added to the list of 30. So you had asked for 24 hours?
Reply by tomorrow such a time, by tomorrow noon.
Thank you so much. Of course, the document will also be the document of the House, and it will be tabled in Parliament. Thank you so much, our brother Window, and a lot of regards from the member who did ask the question, actually, Ocheng. He said he was your student. Sometime confided to me.
I hope I did a good job.
Yeah, seemingly yes. Yeah, actually dropped a lot of accolade. Now, kindly go to the second question. We have got hardly 1 hour to tackle the rest of the 6.
Honorable Chair and honorable members, thank you. The second matter, as guided by the Chair, is the question on insecurity in Fafi constituency. And here I've been asked by the member for Fafi, the Honorable Yakub, to explain reasons why the government is downgrading security levels by discharging 16 National Police Reservists in Fafi, in Bura East sub-county, who are discharged on 6th August 2024. The second issue is that why 17 NPRs who are volunteered to support our security agencies who are dealing with counter-terrorism there have not been armed, yet they are ready to support the security formations there. Then what actions we are taking to enhance security in the constituency, and then also, finally, whether we have a record of abductions by Al-Shabaab or even by security agencies. I would like to respond as follows, that the issue of National Police Reservists is guided by the National Police Service Act. And it provides that the role of NPRs is to support the National Police Service as a reserve, and they can be assigned to support Kenya Police or Administration Police in all the areas that the police have mandate on. And this is preservation of peace, protection of life and property, prevention and detection of crime, apprehension of offenders, and enforcement of laws and regulations of our land. Now, the functions of the work of the National Police Reserve is to support the police, the full-time police deployment. But the Act also provides that NPRs must remain under the command and control of the police formation commanders. And this command has been delegated by the Inspector General of Police to the Sub-County Police Commander, formerly known as OCPDs. They are the commanders of all the police in that sub-county, including NPRs. The Act also subjects NPRs to discipline, just like other police officers. And therefore, issues of command and control and discipline are of the NPRs is still with the Inspector General of Police, delegated to the sub-county police commanders. So the particular number of officers, NPR officers who were discharged, as the member correctly has pointed out, were discharged in exercise of the command, control, and discipline procedures of the National Police Service vested on the Inspector General. And they were replaced. In that sense, it takes me to the second part of the question. The second part of the question is saying there is already another 17 who wants to be NPRs. And why have they not been armed? And I want to respond as follows. It is not enough to volunteer that you want to be an NPR. That's not the end, it's the starting point, because the NPRs actually are voluntary support formation for the police. We just once in a while give them a small stipend, and we are trying to see how we make that a bit more determinate. But once there is need for NPRs, as is the case here in Fafi, there is a process of vetting. After vetting, training. After training, the arming, that is equipment, and then now they are deployed. So that process is ongoing. We have not refused to deploy, but we will need first to complete the vetting, do the training, which takes sometimes 4 or 5 weeks, and then after that they are armed and then deployed. So we will be doing that shortly. And then thirdly, the member wanted to find out what we are doing in Fafi to strengthen the security there. And I want to accept that Ijara Fafi has really given us a lot of challenges in the last almost 1 year, maybe more, the last 3 years. We've had challenges, security challenges there, and our formations in the northeastern region are adjusting to make sure that we detect where the leakages are and where the gaps are. You know, we have a porous border. Up Mandera, we are trying our best to minimize incursions and cross-border threats. But down on the Garissa side, we have a challenge there. And right now, those two areas, Ijara, Fafi area, is problematic. So what we are doing, Chair, is we are increasing the presence of special forces, what we call formed up units, mainly the RDU, the Rapid Response Deployment Unit, the SOG, the Special Operations Group, and other elite special forces that help us to keep the country free from the threat of terror. We have challenges, and that's why as Security Committee we continually request you to support us with a security budget, because unlike normal or ordinary policing, the fight against terrorism and other organized crime like banditry requires very highly trained and highly equipped intelligence-based security deployments, quite expensive. And to train these special forces requires a lot of resources. And I'm glad we are making good progress. And I think even today we'll be receiving a little more in the SOG, which is the most sophisticated and the most effective fighting force this country has, of very patriotic and sacrificial police officers who have given their all to protect us. So we intend, we have a small graduation, and members may want to know that we recruit about 2,000, but those who finish are 100. From 2,000, those who will finish the 6 months specialized training are 100 or thereabout. It's very rigorous. But then what that 100 does is equal to what 10,000 would do in ordinary circumstances. So, Fafi Ijara, I admit, we need to add a few more elite intelligence-led units which can help us address the current situation there. We have registered a lot of progress in Bonny Enclave for the last 18 months. And we hope eventually, even against the fight against banditry, where we are 75–80% done, we are left with 20%. The solution will be in the special forces that will help us get these criminals who have hurt the people of Kenya for a long time. So we are working on that. And of course, we want to involve the communities. That is the last part of the answer. We want to work now with communities to build support for the fight against terror, so that it's not just security-led, government-led. We want to involve communities. NPRs is one entry point, but we want also broader support from elders, and I think we are working on a program between the relevant agencies, National Police Service, National Intelligence Service, and the rest of us. We are trying to work on a program for a more community participatory counter-terrorism. And we should be, this problem, we should get rid of it in a permanent manner if we continue with the current measures we are taking. I submit. We do not have, of course, every missing person, we have a record. And again, if we are asked to supply information, which we want us this time, we can supply the people who's have been reported missing. But our forces do not abduct people. They should not abduct people. But they are highly trained on how to handle counter-terrorism. Very sophisticated, very delicate, without harming innocent members of society. I submit.
Are you done, Waziri? Okay, the member for Fafi is here. He can go on record and maybe say clarification from the minister before we open for the rest of members.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. My name is Salah Yakub Farah, Member of Parliament of Fafi constituency, Garissa County. Chair, with your indulgence, I really want my queries to be sort of interrogative, not one-off questions. And I want to congratulate first hand the CS for being reappointed. I'm happy that he's back to the docket for continuity purpose. I'm not satisfied in the sense that the answers given by the CS were not to my expectations. I wanted numbers, I wanted figures, I needed some more clarifications. To start with, the CS said the 16 members were replaced. The CS said the 16 members were discharged as a result of disciplining and the acts. I want to start by asking the CS, does the CS know where these 16 NPRs were located exactly or placed exactly in Bura East? Bura East has 2 divisions. Burra East Division and Galmagala Division. Can the CS tell me where exactly were they working? That's my first question, as interrogative sort of.
Honorable Chair, that was not part of the request. Deployment of NPRs is the work of the Inspector General. It's not the work of the Minister. The Minister directs the Inspector General on general policy issues, like some of which are being raised here. For example, an area requires NPR. You know, I could tell the IG, please, we need, this is the request, this is, can you now deploy? He deploys.
Thank you, CS. Thank you, CS.
Let me explain myself, because we are on record, because it's not a courtroom, so that we get this right. The issue of, for example, which NPR is posted where, that is the work of the IG, and it normally delegates that to the sub-county commander.
Thank you, CS. If I may help you, the 16 were working at the Galmagala Division. And that's why I told you I don't see the facts down there. And I asked a question of downscaling. I wanted the CS to give me more facts. I know it's a policy, but I wanted him to get facts from the IG. If I may help you, Bwana CS, the 16 were in Galmagala Division. The total number of NPRs in Galmagala were 21. 21 in number. Recruited 2013. On August 6th, 16 of them were let off. You say disciplinary. The letter of discharge doesn't say anything about that. It just said, we, referring to the letter of appointment, we have now discharged you. So I wanted an explicit answer telling me they were discharged on that. So do you have an explicit answer as to why they have been discharged? Was it discipline? Because that's a downscaling.
No, I don't have the answer. Maybe you can call the IG.
Sibara Waziri, as much as, of course, as clearly put, the CS not only advises or supervises the IG on matters policy, but considering that this is a question that was asked by the member in Parliament, I can understand he's trying to say that the IG is supposed to have furnished the CS with the answer. And when Waziri, knowing that, of course, Fafi is one of the most troubled constituencies areas in this country, I think it will have been just fair enough to really go down, get to know exactly what necessitated the discharge of this NPR, considering these are volunteers that in any way are not even probably having, putting a cost on the government, and they are doing a good job. And I'm sure by the time they were recruited, they may have gone through, or they must have gone through the vetting. So kindly, if probably the IG did not, we can still allow you to get more precise, accurate answer for the member, so that at least we can really get the answers we sought.
Point of order, Chair. Chair, in terms of parliamentary procedure, we ask the minister, the CS, to appear before the committee, because the CS is the overall, both in policy and supervision of a ministry. A departmental head can give that information to the CS. And I thought you should clarify, Chair, the point the honorable member was bringing up, and the response from the CS that that is not his work, it should be asked to the IG. I think it is not in order. Maybe, Chair, you could clarify that so that additional information If it's not available, the CS should be able to get from the officers.
I think I've given a direction. When CS, I think in due fairness, it should have been fair to
I
say
have
that
no
you have not
problem
been
getting
furnished.
the information
Yeah.
from the IG. I was just talking like a good student of constitutional law. Article 245 of the Constitution. Only two people can direct the IG. One is DPP on matters of investigation. The second one is the Interior Minister on matters of security policy. That is paragraph 3 and 4. Then 5 goes on to even say, notwithstanding these directives, no person may direct the Inspector General on the recruitment, assignment, promotion of any particular officer. So I just wanted to say that I have that constitutional contour to manage, but generally I have the information, I can get it. I have very good working relations with the IG and everybody else, and I don't think there is anything secretive about it. It's security information which is for the good of the people of Fafi. I can get it, maybe the timeline, Chair, if you give me the timeline so that I can comply.
Chair, if I can say something. First of all, I'm Rosa Kenyibuyu, Member of Parliament of Kisumu West Constituency. Chair, I think the response by the CS is arrogant. Arrogant and demeaning and dismissive. Really, if we wanted to ask the IG, we would have requested the IG to come here. But because he's in charge of that ministry, and a question had been given to him, we expected that he would get answers from his officers so that when he comes here, he gives a suitable answer. But to direct the Member of Parliament to go and call the IG, I think that's arrogant and not acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe, Waziri, I think you are appearing before this committee. And the committee asking you question to do with internal security. Yes, you are not the IG, but you are the policy head of that institution called national security. I don't want to travel that side. The question I want to pursue is that of Ijara and Fafi. The reason why you give NPR is because there is gap in security and the police are not enough to really do policing to protect lives and property. The fundamental question the Honorable Member should have asked, which I want to put to you, is there still need for NPR in those two constituencies where the problem of Al-Shabaab actually is current, it is also fluid, and it is existential, that some of these members are not able to travel freely in their constituencies just because of fearing for their own security. Maybe that is the line we want to pursue with you. Thank you, Chair.
Lastly, maybe you can.
Thank you, Chair. Through the Chair, Bonasias, if in Fafi and Ijara and all other border towns, if there were 21 NPRs and you withdraw 16, meaning there are only 5 remaining, according to me, that is suicidal, extremely dangerous. What measures do you have to curb the insecurity and the problems that we have in those areas?
Chair.
Sarah, then Balosi, then we.
Chair, in regard with NPR, I think even as Waziri attempts to answer the question on disciplinary, I am a witness that NPR really helps in security. And I also don't dispute the fact that they should be vetted, trained, and equipped. But again, Waziri, they say justice delayed is justice denied. And in Swahili they say ngoja ngoja uumiza matumbo. So if at all they have to do all those processes, they have to fast track it. Because as we continue to delay them, then the mwananchi continues to suffer.
Chair, Mwana CS, I think I also want to concur with my colleagues on the role played by the NPRs in securing the country. And I think for my colleague from Fafi, he would like to know, and I also would like to know, how long it will take to fast track this 16 the gap which we have now in that area, so that he can be able to tell his constituents. Thank you, Chair.
I think we should, so that Yakub, you have something to add?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, members, for coming in with that. I don't know why the Waziri was a bit dismissive of my whatever, but it's okay. The CS said the gap is known. It's 250. In fact, it's in his table because there's one time with the RC and 250 was recommended in 2023 January. Up to now, nothing was recruited in the entire Fafi. They only have 58 members, NPRs now in the entire Fafi constituency. 16 now gone. That's the situation in Fafi. The second thing the CS said is they were replaced by the 17 I mentioned. But now that he's saying this is an IG thing, I don't know whether I can continue with the question, because is he sure that those are the 17 to replace? Because these 17 were recruited in 2024, and the 16 were recruited in 2011. The 16 are in Galmagala division, close to Somalia border, controlled from there. The 17 were recruited by a base in Balambala, controlled by SOG camp in Balambala. So surely, is that a replacement? Or is two different forces in two different constituencies? It's not. That's why I said when I raised this question, I told you what we receive is a table, a laptop answers. I don't know whether you will bring the IG so that we can ask these technical questions.
Maybe, Honorable Member, the Waziri is here because of your question. Ask the question and say what is the problem, so that we can
the question
get a solution.
Thank you, sir. The question I'm
maybe
asking,
just to guide Yakub. First, you have even noted that actually on basis of priority, we prioritize the question of Fafi because we appreciate how trouble it is. And in many occasions, you have even confided to me that you at times even don't even visit your constituency because of insecurity issues. So kindly just answer the question.
the question is,
Let me finish.
Yes.
If in a situation whereby you're not certified or the CS does not have maybe the response, we will of course agree with him to conduct his officers, that is of course the IG, and still furnish this committee with their responses.
Bwana CS, are those 17s, who are now working with OCG Raya, is that a replacement or not? Because there are two different places, two different constituencies, 600 apart, 600 kilometers apart. That's my the question. And then on the 17 itself, are you aware that out of these 17, 2 of them, because they are now on the payroll of the government as SOG workers from Raya, and they have no guns for the last 2 years. Are you aware that 2 of them have been hunted down in their homes and killed? And if yes, what action is the ministry doing in relation to that? Lastly, I asked you on the question of gaps. What is the gap of NPR? I just want you to go on record. What is the gap of NPR in Fafi constituency? And what is the ministry doing? And give me, please, some timelines which I can work with. Lastly, on the issue of interventions, you have noted down a lot of things. You have been in office now for 2 years. In your reign, Bwana CS, what is the number of NPR in the last 2 years and a half you have, in the 2 years and a half you have been in office? What is the number of NPRs you have recruited in Fafi? That's one question. 2, are you aware that Galmagala is a police station with an OCS?
Was that part of the question?
No, it's part of the interventions. I'm just asking what he has done on the interventions.
Just to guide,
Yes.
You know, of course, when we do invite the CS or any other officer, we normally furnish them because, you know, they had also to ask from the other officers. So the issue of the police station was part of the question as well. So that we stick to...
I'm heading there. I want to ask him on the interventions because he said there's QRU formed, all those things. I want to ask him on the police stations, because this is part of interventions. There's a police station serving a whole division. Does it have a vehicle? It's an intervention. In the 2 years you have in office, do you have a vehicle in that police station? Have you, if not, what are you trying to do in that sense? 3, there's QRUs you have mentioned here. 2 of the QRU is Nanigi and Kamude, each one hosting 80 to 90 soldiers. Do they have vehicles for the 2 years you have been there? So I want a clear indication from your ministry for the 2 years you've been there. What exactly interventions have you done in terms of recruitment, in terms of provision of equipment to those soldiers which are there, in terms of vehicles on there? Do you have you ever done even a road, a security road in that constituency? Is there a functioning airstrip so that it can serve even your soldiers in that area? And if it's not, what have you done in that? Those are my interventions. The questions on interventions. Lastly, on the issue of abductions. You said you have, I told you have a list of those people who have intervention. Can you just give the committee the number of abductions on records reported by the constituents, abductions both by Al-Shabaab and suspected government agencies? The 2 objections. List, just not the names, but figures, if you have. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Yakub. Maybe in 5 minutes, Waziri, you can attempt.
Chair, first and foremost, if my remarks appear dismissive of or arrogant to the committee, I want to apologize. That's the list of my objectives. Secondly, the issue of what the minister does, what the IG does, it was not to remove responsibility of any type from the minister, was to explain we have a constitution which creates independent offices and independent institutions, including parliament. And therefore, I just wanted to say that you don't expect the minister to micromanage the IG on operational issues, but if the information on operational issues is requested, I can get it from the IG. That was the point, strictly. But I cannot keep on telling him, deploy here, give this kind of firearm to this officer. Those are operational issues, and the Constitution gives him that leeway. Thirdly, the IG was in northern Kenya last week, the acting IG that time, to map out that area extensively, because we have real challenges there. Myself, I've been there overtly and covertly many times, so I have a fair understanding. I may not have the details that the Honorable Member for Fafi has, because that is his constituency. I may not have all the details, but I have a fair understanding, general understanding of the area, the needs, and so forth and so on. And I want to agree with the member and those who have spoken also in support that Fafi Ijara is one of the neediest areas we have at the moment. We've had other needy areas where the threat levels have significantly going down, and I've already said that area is where we are remaining with a great challenge among a few other areas. For example, a year ago, Boni, south of Ijara, Boni, Lamu, was a big headache. But right now, after we managed to put in a bit of operational and policy decisions, the place now is stable. I just wanted to assure the member and the colleagues team from that area that we are putting our efforts right now to make sure that we seal the gaps there. Around deployment, I agree. The NPR allocations for Northern Kenya generally are quite small. There was a recommendation, for example, for Fafi for 250. But you see, that's a recommendation. It's number two, it is subject to availability of resources. And number three, what perhaps we could do is to expedite that process, which I want to undertake on behalf of the National Police Service. But what I may not support or agree with is the suggestion by the Honorable Member for Laikipia North that we do away with training. We cannot recruit NPRs and not train and equip them. Unless I didn't understand, I heard as if the member said she doesn't see the need of training. Unless
I said I don't dispute
okay, sorry.
the fact.
Sorry, I apologize. It's my mistake. So we will expedite. So in the next 14 days, we are going to review the situation there. Out of the need of 250, we may not have the resources to implement the 250 at once, and therefore we can start with 100 or so, see how that pans out, and maybe another month or two, we can incrementally meet the demand. Even in the places where we have given a commitment for NPR, some of them have never been honored because of resource issues. For Isiolo, Wajir, I'm sure the member for Wajir is here, and so many other places. Even where we have given, we have not given the full complement. But I admit, I think that area, and perhaps that is the reason why that is the area now remaining, giving us a security headache, requires expedited focus, and I want to commit to the member and to the committee that in the next 14 days we will at least start with the deployment of about 100, expedite and look for resources for their training so that they can help us even as we meet the full need for that area.
Just for record, Waziri,
Yeah.
for clarity, so that probably we don't go back again, that is Ijara and Fafi area.
We can do 100 for a start.
Yeah.
Because I also know we are constrained for budget. But given the need there, we need to do that. And then secondly,
And kindly,
on
maybe
vehicles.
as we do when Waziri,
Yeah.
the area where the 16 were discharged.
Yes.
Because, this is a member who has been actually, we have been in contact for the last 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
I remember even the time we had the team led by Kenan of Northeastern team.
Yeah.
Where he actually was appointed the Secretary General. The same of Fafi has been an issue every other time.
It is.
So
It's
can
my
we consider,
yeah.
unless there is extremely compelling reason, to reinstate or to put the 16, which were
But we'll
dismissed?
work with local leaders and the police really have to work with the local leaders to assess where the most need should be, and I think there's no problem with assuring that. With regard to vehicles, about half of the police stations in Kenya do not have vehicles. Slightly, actually more than 50%. Because of resource issues. So we are really in a very delicate situation. Between the police and GAO, we need 5,200 vehicles. We just managed to get 1,000, which we have purchased, and they should be with us in about a month's time. And they have taken, Treasury took us rounds from as early as May. We had, and of course for good reasons, because they also didn't have the resources. So we negotiated downwards until we got the 1,000. What I can promise is that we'll prioritize the most needed stations, including the stations from the members' area. And I know many members here also have many police stations that don't have cars, the OCSs don't have AIE, and so forth and so on. The police equipment modernization program is what we want to use. And now that we have basic heavy hardware, and I think for the second and third year, we can invest more of our own usual security operations budget to take care of police vehicles, as opposed ordinary police vehicles or APCs for places like Ijara and Fafi. And then finally, I think, yes, that's it. The other things I remain guided on how to answer them, because some of them were not part of the statement. I may not have all the information on my fingertips.
To help those that, because time is really gone, and we still have got a number of members here. I think the last question was, do we have a number and the figures of the people who have been abducted by either Al-Shabaab or suspected government agency? I think that was the last question.
I think that was the last question, but I got the CS, he said he doesn't have those numbers. The reason I raised that question is to see the grimness of the situation, that my people are in fear. Either they're abducted by the government or by Al-Shabaab.
No, government does not abduct people, Chair. Even the word abduction, what we refer to in security is missing persons reports. That is the official legal thing, because somebody comes and says, my son, my uncle, my neighbor was taken by unknown people. It's a missing person report. And that information, I can also supply it within 24 hours, because there must be an OB. But, if the OB numbers and the number of people who have reported missing are needed, I can supply it within the next 24 hours as well. Is it for Fafi or for the entire?
No, it was Fafi.
Just for Fafi.
Okay.
Thank you, Bwana CS.
So you can combine together with the number, the total of the deaths.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Bwana CS, and thank you for correcting me on legal terms like abduction or whatever. Those are the terms we use. But I thank the committee for raising these questions and bringing the CS on board on that. I'm very happy that, despite the fact that it was a bit abrasive, but I'm okay with that, and I hope there's no issues with that. I just want him to know that at the moment, my constituency is inaccessible. I have been a victim. I think you saw on TV that was attacked, especially in that place in Galmagala. I'm pleading with you as a CS, please give a special attention to Fafi constituency. I want you to, you said you have visited Fafi. I'm not aware of that. Maybe you have gone in a discreet way. I'm not sure of that. But I really want you to go to Fafi so that you can even feel the blood with me, so that you can sense how sensitive it is. Otherwise, thank you for the questions. I expect more from you, and I know you are up to the task and you can do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So before you go to the next third question, maybe we are going to give Kenan just to have a second.
Chairman, initially when
initially
when I raised my hand, I wanted to ask my brother to withdraw that statement and apologize, because Mo University, that earlier statement, but now that he has done, I think I'll leave it there. That's when I raised my hand, because that was completely outside our parliamentary practice. But secondly, this issue of Fafi, Waziri, and you know it, has dominated our regional agenda. I really want to plead with you. We all share the concerns of Honorable Salah. And generally, I must admit, there has been tremendous improvement of security in the region. I want to say it can be seen, it can be felt. But Fafi and Ijara have unique challenges. I really want to plead with you. Let's not leave the issues concerning Fafi and Ijara to this boardroom. I will suggest that you organize a meeting with the heads of the police, your office, because these two constituencies actually require unique attention. Whenever we have our regional caucus, the issue of Fafi, the issue of Ijara actually took our list. We have had, we went to Burra the constituency headquarters of Fafi. And you can imagine the kind of protection. We flew from Nairobi to Bura. I've been to Somalia, I've been to many other parts of the world. You need to do a lot. So my request is what the Honorable Salah Yaqub has said is our shared concerns. Please assist him. Thank you, Chair.
So I think that was just complimenting and of course reinforcing what we said. So kindly go to that question. We have already 11:13. Honorable, I don't know whether it should be Abdi Ali on the issue of brutal attacks of the headers in Gabababa location.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members. I've been asked to tell the committee the steps that we are taking to apprehend the NPR's chiefs, AP officers who attacked herders in Gababa, location Ijara constituency, and also what we are doing to make sure this is not that does not recur, and the support being provided to victims of the injuries, and the measures we have put in place to address the issue of grazing rights and resource allocation around in that area generally. Honorable Chair, 13th August 2024, Mr. Said Komora, the chief of Zubake location, held a baraza at Mahono sublocation where there were farmers, there were Pokomo, involving Pokomo farmers from Tana River County and Somali herders from Garissa County. The agenda was about the conflict between farmers and herders, which is common in pastoral areas and other marginal areas of our country. But the meeting became violent, and as a result of that violence, two herders removed their spear with an intention to attack the chief. That prompted the NPRs, the two NPRs, who were armed with rifles, to fire 5 rounds of ammunition. In the process, Mr. Reso Mohammed was shot and he sustained gunshot wounds on both legs. He was rushed to Ijara Sub-County Hospital where he was admitted in serious condition. The action taken, Honorable Chair, is that the police reservists who were involved in the shootings were disarmed, as is the procedure in these cases. And the DCI Tana River Sub-County has commenced investigations. The case has also been taken over by IPOA, because as I said, misuse of firearms by a police officer is not part of government policy, and therefore IPOA, which is the independent agency that deals with those cases, is already investigating the matter. The two and then the other issue is what we are doing to make sure that this is not repeated. Number one, peace building and reconciliation initiatives. We have instructed our Wanga officers at higher levels to make sure that they revitalize the peace committees and elders to make sure that the community is there, the farmers and the herders continue coexisting peacefully. Number two, we are doing, of course, joint security patrols from by officers from the two counties, Tana River and Garissa. We have reviewed our intelligence gathering to make sure that before such barazas are held, we are able to ascertain the kind of issues that are likely to be emotive and prevent the escalation of emotions that will lead to violent attacks in cases like this. And then we are also in that area revamping our community policing arrangements and facilitating through, again, the peace building committees, the negotiation between the two groups, the farmers and the herders, some form of agreements which are very common in those areas. And we hope once the communities agree, we should not have an incident like this occurring again. In terms of compensation for the injury, and unfortunately we do not have any budget to compensate victims of crime. But maybe in the future, if we have budget, we could be assessing some of these cases and identifying possible cases for compensation. So the peace committees, Honorable Chair, have been facilitating mediation, and we hope after that mediation, we will have a peace agreement between those communities and reconciliation. And this is the same for other areas where we are having similar confrontations between farmers, herders, mainly around resources. So the grazing committees have been regularizing, regularizing some of the arrangements, and also we want to believe that this alternative dispute resolution mechanism is the key. Even if we will prosecute anybody who has hurt another or harmed another Kenyan, our experience in these areas is that alternative dispute resolution mechanisms, once communities agree, we will enforce them because they are more durable and more sustainable than the use of hard force. I submit.
Mheshimiwa, do you have got maybe a clarification further you need?
Thank you very much. For record purpose, my name is Abdi Ali Abdi, Member of Parliament for Ijara constituency. First, I want to thank the committee for the opportunity you have given me on this matter. I also want to thank and congratulate the CS for this new appointment and what he has given so far. But I just want to say that I'm not contented with the information the CS has given. First, I want the CS to understand that this is a matter that has been there for the last 60 years, since independence, because of the 3 Mile factor. And I know it's not within his mandate, but that's an issue that the ministry need to understand. This has been a problem that has been existing between Garissa County and Tana River, specifically the constituencies along the river. With the response that CS has given on the issues of, on the question of the steps that have been taken to apprehend and prosecute the officers involved and the administrator involved, he said very clearly that there were baraza that was called. You know where I'm talking from is about boundary issue. The baraza, the Zubaki location, it comes up to after the river. And I have Gababa location, so we share the same. We have chiefs in Gababa. We have assistant chief in another sublocation of Gababa called Abdigure. We have DO division there. We have DCC there. So if the CS is giving me only the report on the other side, if there were barazas and there were herders involved, why is Ijara DCC not involved? Or the chiefs that were not, the chief from my side were not involved. I'm told that there's a baraza that will take place in this particular sublocation, which is in Tana River. Let us come together and do a peace building reconciliation. First, that information is fallacy. It's not there. And whoever gave that, because for a baraza to happen two constituencies or 2 boundaries, there must be a notice. There must be a written notice to the both constituencies. It's not there. I want the CS to share that notices. It's not there. So this was just a one side, and that has been the trend for the last 60 years.
where the chief comes from the other side. If there's a problem, comes to this side. He doesn't involve the other chief. They continue doing their own things, come with an NPR, use NPR and police officers to intimidate my people. So when he's telling me the CS, there are only 2 NPRs. There were 8 NPRs and 2 AP officers and 2 chiefs. Because immediately that thing has happened, the OCS for Masalani rushed to the site. And we have the OB, number, everything is written. How the OB was written is how I put in my statement in the chamber. So let us not make it that this is a normal process that happened or there's a fight. There was an intention to intimidate my people, and this happens on daily basis. Just after this incident, another 2 incidents happened in that area. So I think we need to do further extensive investigation on this matter. What I want to hear from the CS is the issue of the chiefs. These chiefs have been there for the last how many years? What have you guys taken any disciplinary action? Because you have only told me NPR disarming. I'm not seeing any chiefs have been taken any disciplinary action. I'm not seeing. So this is a culture that has been continuing. And if you don't take action, the 2 communities, actually I'm the one on the other side, I'm the one who is spearheading peace. We have lost cows there, we have seen instances, over 50 goats were killed, were slaughtered, and put into the river, on the Tana River. And those goats belong to us. But what have we done? We have solved internally. But this matter now, already people, we have lost lives. So I think I'm not contented with the statement on the steps taken. I want to see the chiefs taking action, the NPRs disarmed, and also the APs disarmed. Because if we don't do that, tomorrow they'll also come with APR, NPR, because we are not in control. If these NPRs, they are being controlled from the other side. If there's a joint operation, why are we not involved in the DCC Jara and the DCC Hall?
I think you've really made clear and passed your point. Yes. So maybe you can let the CS respond. But just to help us, I think actually your question on that, I think is very clear. The steps that are being, the statement that you sought, the steps that have been taken to apprehend and prosecute the NPR, chiefs, APs, officers. And I think the CS, if I heard him well, said is an issue being investigated by POA, which by law,
excuse me,
yes?
If you hear what the CS has said, he has only said 2 things.
Okay, he's here.
Yeah, he has said only,
but for purposes of time.
Chair, please. Just give me time. Mine, it has not even taken less than 5 minutes.
Chair regulates.
I'm just requesting.
And I know you really passed your point.
Yeah.
Kindly.
No, I'm saying I have asked 3 questions. The NPR, the chiefs, and the AP. What the CS has given me, he told me NPRs only. Where are the chiefs? Where are the APs? That's my question.
Yes, you can respond.
For the APs, the use of force is between the internal affairs units of the police and the IPOA, and I've said already, the two are working on it. Before arrests are made, there must be an investigation file which is complete and which has evidence that can sustain charges in a court of law. But I want to accept the suggestions by the Honorable Member for Fafi that we need to do a little more. Make sure, I'm going to verify whether this peace building is involving cross-border participation. Because if it is not, then it is not going to yield the fruits we want. And I'm going to demand from our officers there in the 2 counties to ensure that it is done and file a written report so that we don't get anything wrong. But I really accept, that it has to be done properly because border issues can be very sensitive. They are long-standing issues. There are no quick fixes around it. And more than half of the counties of Kenya have this kind of very emotive and delicate issues that need to be handled well. I take the suggestions by the member of Fafi, and Ijara and Fafi, they are neighbors. I'm sorry for the confusion. The member for Ijara. Thank you.
So just on the same, I think, if I got him right also, carry investigation. if our officers, the chiefs, were in any way involved in the wrongdoing, so that, of course, they can also, matters of discipline can be initiated.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Chair. CS, I just want to pursue what Honorable Abdi there has asked. I think these are the sort of questions that should never appear before a parliamentary committee. This is a strong omission by the Ngao officers on the ground. If they quickly came together, the culprits were going to be arrested and taken to court. So for that reason, I think going forward, this is really administrative. It is not policy. It is not within the ambit of the cabinet secretary. So for that reason, it's good the question has come. But I think it's high time we start that differentiation of what should come before a committee and what should be settled on the ground by DCCs and county commissioners. Thank you, Chair.
Just suggestion.
And it's already 11:30, so I kindly ask members to...
One suggestion. Waziri, I've had the privilege of serving with many other former members of parliament. Actually, this is the 6th member in Ijara. This problem has been there. It is historical. You are the first occupant of that office with a legal mind. I'm not trying to impute any improper motive on your predecessors. Can you be reformist and courageous enough and face this problem of Ijara and Garissa, and you know the ingredients, for the sake of peace, tranquility, and posterity? Because you know the fear of the unknown is what has chairman, everybody fears. Nobody wants to make a decision. And you know, in my culture, we say the worst crime one can commit is indecision. Can you be bold enough, courageous enough? Because you have the legal mind, you have the political support, you have what it takes, and we pray for you, and solve this issue. And you know what it takes to solve this issue? It was historical. Those historical issues are not there. Immediately after independence, you know what happened. The politics of Tana River, the politics of Somalia, you know the politics. Those things are no more. Nobody wants to go the other side. In fact, if anything, everybody wants to come the Kenyan side. So my plea to the minister is, be courageous enough, solve this problem so that the next member who will come after 20 years, I want him to, of course I don't want to interview with the people of Ijara, but I think he's doing very well. So that this young member can say in his reign, this problem between Garissa and by extension Ijara and Tana River has been sorted out by one progressive, candid, strong minister. And you go on.
Sarah, what is it again, kindly, so that we move?
No, Chair.
Very high-ranking member.
I just want,
is always valid.
I just want to say in 2 minutes that I support what Honorable Ras is saying, that the Waziri should put his foot down on his Ngao officers in both Tana River and Garissa, starting with the county commissioner down. Number 2, I want to give my unqualified opinion to my friend, the Honorable Member for Ijara, that even as we ask for government to intervene, as members and as leaders, we have a role to play. So I think, and I will plead that they sit with a member for the other constituency in Tana River and start their own conversation here, then take it down to their constituency. And Chair, I will beg to leave after this because you are going for the G7, and as the incoming governor of Laikipia 2027, God willing.
Best wishes, the G7s. Even Bui Rosa admission is going to the same. So Waziri, you can go to the next.
Thank you very much. I'll take it up with
to manage your time.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Chair, the next one, the second last, according to my record, I think is the second last, is from Taita Taveta. And the member for Undanyi would like to know the status of the investigations on killings of a number of boda riders and thefts of motorcycles in that county the past 3 months, the measures we are taking, the reason why these events are occurring, and what the strategies we are putting to make sure that we contain crime in that area. I respond as follows. We've had, during the last few months, about 7 cases. The first one, Frank Wanjala, deceased, 23 years old, a border rider, was killed on 7th of August. A security guard actually,